All right, today is April 22, 2026. This is the meeting of the Container Storage Interface community. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. We got a couple items lined up today. If you have anything else that you want to add, please feel free to add to the agenda doc. You can find the link in your calendar invite. First up, Ben, you've got a couple items. You want to go through the first one here?
Well, I just wanted to make that announcement we were talking about for those who wonder. We don't want AI bots taking notes in these meetings because we record them anyways. And if you want to take notes, you can use the recording to get your notes. So I just want everyone to be aware that we're just going to kick out any note-taking robots because they're not necessary. Um, the next item is there was a discussion in the Slack channel about a CVE that is affecting some of our sidecars and probably also CSI itself. This is a CSI found in gRPC. I'm trying to find my Slack channel. Um, yeah. So I looked at this CVE. It's a vulnerability in the server, but I'm pretty sure that because of the way that we use gRPC over a Unix file socket that's kind of hidden in the file system, there's no avenue to attack the CVE, so I don't see any vulnerability, any like actual vulnerability. I do think though we should, as a matter of practice, just update the gRPC Go library to keep the scanners quiet. Um, so we should. I wanted to ask, when is our next release, and if it's not soon enough, should we consider a CVE release to
Yeah,
address
we
this
don't have
issue?
any release planned, but we can certainly do just a security bump release. That's not an issue, a small patch release.
Okay. Okay, so then we just need someone to volunteer to bump the release, test it, and push it and turn the crank on the release.
Yeah, we
Um,
had the bot that would do the bumps periodically. I don't know if that's still running
but
or not.
I looked at our Go mod file in the spec repo, and we have a very old version of gRPC Go, so I don't think anything is updating, at least in the CSI repo. In the sidecars, it may be a different story. The sidecars might be in better shape, but for the spec repo, I'm pretty sure this is manual. We should probably be more aggressive about keeping libraries up to date.
Oh,
Um,
Ben, I do see there was a bot and there was a PR submitted by bot. Maybe we just didn't
oh,
review them. Yeah, if you go look at it now, there is yeah, there were some open ones there actually.
yeah, get pull requests. Come on, pull
Depend bot.
requests.
Yeah, and there was
Oh, that's
one.
great. Okay, that makes it a little easier.
Well, okay,
Um,
but the one I see here is too old because we need to get
oh,
to 1.80, not 1.79. Um,
Oh, maybe you can just ask bot to like,
yeah,
I don't
there's
know,
probably a way to tickle the bot to
yeah,
to
to
rerun
update or
its
something.
workflow.
Yeah, yeah.
So we should do that, and we should merge it and yeah, get
Oh,
on with life.
yeah.
you
Oh,
just
and plan a release, I guess. That's the piece that's not going to be automated. Um,
yeah. I'll just see if I can do rebase and see if it does anything. Normally, oh no, it says no. Only users with push X. Okay, so you can do it. I cannot do it.
okay,
If you do a dependable rebase, when does it rebase, it will also try to get the latest version, I think.
okay. Yeah, that's what we need to do then, and we need to do release. So after this meeting, I'll go figure out how to make the bot update and work on getting that patch merged.
Okay,
Um,
thanks, Ben. Please ping me if you need anything in terms of getting a CL merged and or the PR merged, and then I can help cut a new release as needed.
yeah. Okay. Uh, that's all I had on that topic. Um, the next one was this PR from Weiwen. I don't know, Weiwen, do you want to introduce this or should I?
Yeah, I can introduce this.
Okay, go ahead.
And oh, can you please open the page for me? Open the web page. Yeah, thank you. So, so the motivation, the initial motivation for this is that we have received an security requirement that our customer asked us to our remove our credential to access our cloud API from all of our nodes. So we can no longer access, for example, the topology information. And,
Mm.
and so I think the best way to resolve our security requirement is to just move this operation to the controller side. And actually, it's only scheduler for Kubernetes. It's only scheduler needs this information. So it is not necessary for the node to get this like topology info.
And and I should also mention that Amazon is also has the same problem, a slightly different flavor of it, where for them it's not as much of a security problem as much as a software maintenance issue, where they can't calculate the maximum volumes per node for brand new node types without doing a software update, and they release new node types faster than they release software updates. So like just as a practical matter, they they wanted a way to do this. So Amazon was also on board with this this KEP and the CSI change. Um, Anything else you wanted to say before we start talking about the details, Weiwen?
Yeah, yeah. And there are also two other motivations that comes up later. Yeah. And the second one is the performance, the scalability reason. That is, for the controller side, for example, we can cache the API request and maybe aggregate the request, do some benching so that it is more efficient. Yeah. And the second motivation, the third motivation is that we to actually calculate the accurate max max volume per node, we also need to consider the volumes that is attached by the user manually or the boot disk. Mm, Yeah, so for this to work, we have to compare the list from the cloud provider and the list from the external attacher, that is the volume attachment for Kubernetes. Yeah. And this can only be done from the controller side.
Okay, and so that's why the proposal includes a field for the sidecar to pass in the list of attached volumes to controller get node info.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
And
okay,
actually, I have revised that part. I'm now proposing for the SP to return this list to CO, and CO calculate the final value.
okay. All right, I haven't seen the updated version. Um, I, I I agree that this is a real issue that we should make an effort to solve in CSI. I'm not sure about the exact details of the proposal in its current form. In particular, there was a node get ID RPC that was added that just returns the ID, and so it seems useless when we have node get info, which returns the ID and other stuff. That was my first criticism, and then yeah, having a controller get node info feels weird to me. I agree we want some way for the controller to be able to return like a volume limit given the node ID. I think we might want to call it something different. And I guess if you've already changed the proposal to have the CO do some calculation, then I need to see the updated version of it. But my instinct is it makes sense for to have two limits, to have the node have its limit and to have the controller have a limit for every given node, and then to have Kubernetes sort of pick the lower of the two limits, um, which would enable SPs then to either limit it at the node side or the controller side or both, which I think will meet everyone's needs. Um, but I'm not sure if the proposal does it exactly that way. Um, we also have to be careful just about backwards compatibility as we change things around. There will be COs that'll continue to use the old mechanism. So we need to make sure that as we introduce the feature, it continues to be backwards compatible.
Yeah, and actually, the motivation to introduce the node get ID RPC is to is for the backward capability, and as you can see, the node registration process starts from the node. So so how can we know which process to go for?
What who
And
who would call get node ID?
yeah, in Kubernetes it's kubelet. So
Right.
kubelet first need to know which one
But
it should call.
Kubelet is already calling get node info today.
Yeah, yes.
So
And
so, so what,
if
I
it
don't
find
understand.
yeah, so kubelet should check for the node capability first. And if it sees the get ID capability, then it go for the new route and don't touch the old route. So this is
But but but,
how it,
but
yeah.
what's wrong with the old approach? Like if all you need is the ID, you can just call get node info and then extract the ID from that and throw away the other two fields, right?
Mm,
Are you saying there's something more communicated by that capability than just there is another RPC?
yeah. So um, so for example, as our current implementation, if the for example the topology is required to be returned from this RPC. So if we don't have our credential to access this topology, we will actually fail this RPC. So yeah,
Okay, you're saying that in a future state where we've implemented this new software, like node get info just won't even work. Like
yes,
you won't be able to report a number or the topology because you're depending on some new workflow to get. Yeah, well, that's going to be a major backwards compatibility problem because if you install that SP on like the Kubernetes that is shipping today, it's going to call node get info and it's just going to break.
yeah,
So that doesn't seem good.
and yes, but we as the SP, it also can keep multiple configuration. For example, if the customer needs more secure workflow, it will need to upgrade the CO first. And if the customer don't update CO, it can still use the old workflow. Yeah, but it is not very secure.
I don't think that's backwards compatible if you're forcing someone to upgrade the CO in order for it to work. That's you're saying you're breaking compatibility and you're providing a migration mechanism, but the compatibility isn't there. Like what do you do today when someone calls no get info? How does it work?
Yeah, we are dispatching some credentials like the our we call it RAM token, RAM STS token. Yeah, this token is stored on a Kubernetes secret, and our CSI daemon set pod mount this secret to retrieve them and call our cloud API.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is a difficult challenge because yeah, the CSI spec doesn't say you should be doing that, and I don't think we can alleviate the requirement by just implementing a new capability that says, oh, now we're going to start calling this new RPC without going through a deprecation process. Like we could decide to deprecate node get info and tell everyone to stop using it, but without doing that, you have to continue supporting it somehow. And I don't see how you get rid of if the only way you can support it is to have this secret that allows you to call an API. I don't see how you can stop doing that and remain backwards compatible.
Yeah.
I don't know, Shing or Saad, do you have a different stance?
I agree. I'm thinking about if there is a graceful way to be able to say that I am effectively using I don't know, like a topology V2 or something, and it would cause the SP to effectively act as if you don't have topology if it's an older version of an SP. And if you are using a new version of an SP, it will say, oh, well, you're using topology V2. It's, controller aware. Then I will, not try to use get node info. And I'll try to use a different call, effectively a way to do what Waywind is trying to do, but I'm not sure if that's completely backwards compatible or not.
No, I mean it's migration to a new API because yeah, if anyone tries to install a new SP on an old CO, it just won't work because
Yeah, I
COs
guess as
today
long as
just
you're using
require.
topology, as long as your driver is topology aware and it has the
Hey,
existing version of topology. Yeah, no, you're
even
right.
if it isn't like well, I guess the one thing you could do is you could modify your node get info implementation to just not return topology or node limits anymore. So then it doesn't break, and then old COs continue to be able to get the node ID through node get info.
Yeah,
And
but
and
but that is
and
breaking the old CO, right? Because in the
well,
old
we're saying the old CO is going to be broken no matter what in this with your SP at least. Um, if we go down this capability where you kind of are effectively deprecating node get info if this capability is set to true. Um, so yeah, my feeling is if you're going to do that, you might as well just say, well, continue using get node info and just only return the ID and leave the other two fields blank. And then have some way of signaling to the CO that like, hey, you should be getting those fields through some other mechanism, which is the one that you've outlined. But even in that case, like adding a new RPCs doesn't help. Um, because new or old COs won't call it, and we don't want to deprecate the old. I don't think we want to deprecate the existing node get info, because
yes,
because
yes,
lots of SPs have implemented it and will never implement this new feature, and so we have to continue supporting the old way um, for the
yes,
SPs that never want to upgrade. Um, so what I'm thinking is maybe what we do is if we implement like the controller half of this and the Kubernetes half of this, then you can have a new version of your SP that just returns the node ID from get node info and leaves the topology blank and leaves and sets the limits to infinity. Um, and then you can control where that gets installed and just make sure it's installed on versions of Kubernetes that are using your new topology mechanism. And then at least it won't be broken on old Kubernetes. You'll just lose topology and limits on old Kubernetes, which is about as good as you can do, I guess.
yes. So that will require a way to pass the version of Kubernetes to the SP, right? We will need to
Mm,
know what the
No,
version
no,
of the field
that
to
would
to
just we never pass the version. So you would just have to have a version of the SP that just stops returning those values and then document it to your operators that you can only install that SP on newer versions of Kubernetes if you want to continue having topology and limits enforced. And that would just be then a deployer limitation where they'd have to make sure that they don't do the wrong thing. But yeah, the SP will never be told what version of Kubernetes is talking to it. Um, it just has to implement the CSI spec as best it can. Uh,
is
Is there anything that could go wrong there? So let's say um, some CO doesn't update and SP updates to adopt this new behavior and stops returning topology on the
yeah,
node.
yeah, I'm also worrying about this. So I think this is more breaking than my proposal.
wait, just spell out the scenario again, Saad.
So my worry would be the CO does not update. So they
Yeah,
have the existing behavior. They don't know anything about this new
yeah.
capability. They are calling get node info. and the SP has been updated and suddenly stops returning topology. And so basically it's you have like a regression in terms of topology awareness.
Right, but in the existing proposal that would happen as well, right? Because
Yeah,
it,
I agree.
so,
I don't think
so
either
Yes.
proposal is addressing this. Are we comfortable with that?
why I think the trick is that in reality, SPs and COs don't update completely independently because the CO half of the CSI contractor is in the sidecars, and usually the sidecars and the CSI driver update in lockstep, right?
Yeah, yes, but
The storage
Kubernetes,
vendor can say, here's the new CSI driver, and it's using these sidecars, and they can ensure that the sidecars are updated at the same time as the
but the
CSI driver.
kubelet is not updated at the same time. The kubelet is usually updated separately.
Okay. So yeah, then in this scenario, no, whether we go with the proposal as written or my alternative, if you update the SP and kubelet remains the older version, it's not going to check the capability. It's going to
Yep.
continue calling get node info, and it's going to break.
Yeah, and for my version, the operator should get an error that says the maybe the node get info will not success and you will need to upgrade or something that it
I
is
think
not
that's
failing silently.
equally bad, right? Like there's two options here. One is silent failure and loud failure. Both are
Yeah, yes,
not ideal. Because it means that I didn't change anything on my end from the Kubernetes side and things just broke because I picked up a new driver.
yeah, and that is choice. So I I so I have said that the maybe we can configure the SP in different way that for example, when installed on the older version of Kubernetes, it will still dispatch the credential to keep capability. And when installed with the new Kubernetes, it will remove the credential.
That would be actually pretty good.
Yeah. But in that case, you also don't need a get node ID RPC. You can just continue having get node info and have, if then you can just have your get node info implementation either get the correct information if you have the credential or return blank information if you don't have the credential, and you're guaranteed to get good behavior because the credential will always be present when it's needed and not present when it's not needed, right?
That still seems strange because currently, if the node get info is returns successfully, it will certainly contains complete information, right? We are going to change this behavior to
Well, that was the other piece I wanted to talk about is I think there's it's reasonable to have a concept of the node has an attached limit and the controller has an attached limit that is per node, and for Kubernetes to compute the minimum of those two values. Um,
yeah. I
and
think
in that world, if the node goes from reporting like a finite limit to an infinite limit, like from 20 to infinity, then it's fine as long as something else is saying the limit's actually 20 on the controller side, and Kubernetes knows what to do. So the node isn't lying; it's just saying I don't have a limit. The limit's on the controller side now.
yeah, so that may be not very useful, I think.
Well,
Why we
the
don't
problem is
need
when we
to
design this feature, we put the value on the node side because it was presumed that the node would always know what its limit was because it would be related to something about the node operating system itself. Um, and now we have all these cloud platforms where the limit actually isn't related to the node, or the node can't discover its own limit, and we have to do something. But that doesn't mean there aren't still plenty of SPs where the limit actually is related to something that the node can just determine by itself. So I like the idea of having two different limits, a node-based limit and a controller-based limit, and having Kubernetes pick the lower of the two.
yeah. Maybe we can have something like get node info context to put anywhere any info
Well,
and pass that from the
okay,
node to controller.
we're running out of time, but I'll just throw this out there real quick because this was the idea I had before the meeting. In general, when we have information that the controller knows and that the node doesn't, it gets passed from the controller to the node through the CO in the context, either the volume context or the published context.
Yeah.
It's possible that what we need here is something like a node context where, this kind of information gets passed from the controller through the CO to the node as part of its, I don't know, attachment sequence, and then the node can just have the information. The controller can just give it the information. I haven't fleshed that idea out, but I was just thinking that that's how we normally solve these
Yeah,
kinds of
that's an
problems.
interesting idea. Basically, today we assume that the information is passed from controller to node, and this would go in the other direction. Is that the suggestion?
Well, no, I mean we have the volume context and we have the published context today, where the controller can pass information to the node.
Yeah.
We don't have any way for the node to pass information to the controller, and we've resisted doing that in the past. Now, all of these schemes are kind of like that in some way, where you have some node ID and you go to the controller and say, give me information about this node. I was just thinking if we could redesign it as a push from the controller down to the node where the CO copy the information, then we could keep that sort of unidirectional flow of information from controller to node. And we would avoid the security issues and we would avoid the scale issues because scale is what, a lot of the workarounds for this involve like the node making its own API call, and then you have a scale problem when the node is either talking to the Kubernetes or talking to some other server, and you have a large number of nodes. It creates a scaling problem. So if we could broadcast the information from the controller to the nodes, you might be able to address the scaling problem.
Yes, but we anyway we need to get node ID from node side.
Yes, I don't dispute that. Like there has to be some process where the kubelet wakes up, talks to the SP to get the node ID, and then tells the controller, hey, there's a node, we need some information about it.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty much currently my proposal.
okay. So we're out of time for this meeting. I think we need to discuss this one some more. I don't think we should wait a whole month. So, Wei-Wen, do you want to propose another time, or do we want to schedule an off-cycle meeting to continue this discussion?
Yeah.
Oh, we have Eddie here. Thanks for joining, Eddie.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I thought this meeting was at 1 p.m. EST, so I joined a little late. I'll
Oops.
go through the notes and catch up.
So this is the CSI community sync.
Yeah. This is this. I think we should schedule another meeting, another off-cycle meeting. But we have to jump to another meeting now. So let's talk about that in the Slack channel and get another meeting scheduled.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. So Eddie, I think you probably rejoin. Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right, thank you.